Expanding our purview, we can begin to lay out the facts absolving nature of participating in the crime humans have perpetrated on ourselves, the fraud of a single existing reality. We have to take full responsibility for our current situation. We have been solo perpetrators of the crime. To progress, we have to confront ourselves head on, no matter how scary that might be. If we look at the current problems facing physics, there are primarily 5 facts that have dumbfounded us, that have eluded a cohesive abductive explanation. They are a 5-piece puzzle that just won't fit in our current model of reality, and there's no way to ignore them. We can't dismiss them as shoddy scientific work or bad faith research. They have been individually verified and re-verified to umpteen precision points. They have become a part of our reality, our story. Of course, that is just the tippy top of the iceberg. There are thousands of facts that would need to be consolidated under the umbrella of one physical explanation in order for that explanation to be successful. Also, the top 5 that I have chosen are patently debatable. It is like trying to pick the 5 top movies of the last 130 years. Still, I would argue that the 5 basic questions must be addressed as a price to admission to a fundamentally physical world. It is like answering the question, what is the 5-word password to gain entry into a secret treasure room? Guessing just won't hack it, and we only get 3 tries before it is permanently sealed. Putting the funny bone aside, let's go through the 5 basic physics facts that have rubbed our reality the wrong way. Some conflicts are more obvious than others, and some reality or meta-reality doctrines are shakier than others. Here are my 5 choices for the top physics facts. Fact 1. In particle physics, fundamental particles have no parts. For example, an electron has no quarkish components like a proton has. Compare this to an engine which has many parts. The existence of fundamental particles conflicts with the object-real corollary that a real object will always have parts. Fact 2. In quantum mechanics, Yockdale objects are multi-state. For example, the position of an electron in a hydrogen atom is denoted with a hazy wave function and cannot be said to exist in a single location at any moment in time. Compare this to our everyday experience with a cat, which may sun itself on the couch for the better part of a day. Multi-state existence clashes with the metaphysical contention that we live in a single objective reality. Fact 3. In classical physics, objects have inertia. For example, the Voyager 1 space probe launched in 1977 is still floating away into interstellar space with no signs of stopping and has reached just under a light day away from Earth. Apologies, but this fact and how it confounds is rather esoteric. For the most part, we have accepted this behavior as the norm, even after being brought up in an earthbound environment, which has to be prodded to get inertia to exert itself. Perhaps that is why it is magical to watch a skater glide across the ice after we have trudged to the concession stand to get our hot dog. A frame of reference is how we define this glide, and each object establishes its own frame of reference, which the object remains centered in. And yet, if we accept Einstein's reasonable Mach principle, this frame of reference is dependent on the totality of all other objects in the universe. This inability to find an explanation for inertia within the object itself butts heads with a more advanced object-real proposition that a true property of a single object belongs to that object, which is finite and separate. It has to do with an object's unity, its separateness from other objects, and the infinite unreal, which was briefly touched upon in the first video. In other words, an object's true property declares its independence from other objects and maintains its own self-determination. This proposition needs further expansion, but my explanation by a dummy will have to wait until later. So it isn't so much inertial behavior that confuses, but rather the missing object-centric cause of the behavior that messes with how we view the world, at least the Western view of it. Fact 4. In relativity, space and time are equivalent and malleable. For a special relativity example, a muon generated from the high-speed collision between cosmic rays in our upper atmosphere lasts longer than a stationary muon from our viewpoint, while from the high-speed muon's viewpoint, it traveled through a skinnier upper atmosphere to reach a mountaintop. Compare this to a couple walking through life together and aging at the same rate. For a general relativity example, photons originating from a quasar and traveling around a distant galaxy will follow a deflected path, creating gravitational lensing. Compare this to the light from a lantern shown from a distant mountaintop and apparently traveling straight to another mountaintop. A malleable spacetime tangles up the initial metaphysical presumption that time and space are distinct and static properties of a single existing universe, which additionally corresponds to the infinite unreal. Fact 5. In cosmology, our universe started with a cataclysmic birth. For example, the cosmic microwave background radiation shows the resultant plasma flash about 350,000 years after that birth. Like for inertia, the birth of our universe, some 14 billion years ago, is a widely accepted fact. And like for inertia, we are in the dark about the cause, with some suggesting that there is no cause. A common phrase that is used to describe that birth is something coming from nothing. Saying that something comes from nothing is a slap in the face to the principle that all events have a cause. This principle will be covered in the videos on causality coming soon to a theater near you, eventually. For an everyday example, we can compare our universe birth to the birth of a chick, which we know has a cause. Not surprisingly, where there is a vacuum, a lot of ink rushes in to fill it. Some potential candidates are a random quantum fluctuation that got out of hand, a collision between M-branes, or a universe oscillating between a big bang and a big crunch. However, to keep things simple, we will just say that the birth of our universe has no apparent cause, which flies in the face of everything requiring a cause. In summary, we have 5 facts which have no common explanation and which directly conflict with our best metaphysical view of reality. They are indivisible fundamental particles, quantum multistates, frame of reference inertia, unified elastic spacetime, and the eventful creation of our universe. I don't know about you, but I have a range of reactions with these facts sitting right in front of my face. I go from my gut telling me that something is off to what the... Not that my gut is always right. For instance, it is telling me that it is hungry now, but I know it is not time for my honey latte. Just some quick caveats before continuing on. I listed 1 fact per field of study, but the list of disciplines is not intended to be exhaustive or comprehensive. Also, scoring the fact with a conflicting reality principle or assumption does not mean the fact is wrong. Rather, it is a corresponding principle or assumption that will have to be discarded, tweaked, re-envisioned, or reasserted in order for a physical model to be successful. Finally, I have touched upon the first 4 of these facts in this video and in prior ones. The one I really haven't looked at is the creation of our universe, but that can wait until the videos on causality. So we have these 5 stubborn toe-stub facts and a huge problem to solve. The facts have triggered what seems like an unsolvable riddle, similar to other impossible problems such as the nature of life. We are left scratching our heads and asking, what did nature have in mind when flipping the frigging on switch? Additionally, it just seems that physics cannot or is unwilling to provide us a clear path to get to the 4th step in our problem solving, an abductive conclusion, while most critically keeping the principles of object reality, and not without good rational reasons. Basically, the hidden world seems nothing like our everyday experience, our immediate object reality. We are in our safe little island, oblivious to how chaotic and seething our underlying world truly is. It is like the thin earthen crust we sit on while magma churns and burns beneath us. And yet we feel completely safe, as if the universe cradles us in a gentle protective hand. Let's hope it stays that way. I have alluded to this balance between order and chaos, between the determinate and the indeterminate in a prior video when talking about life. For example, the untwirling of DNA to replicate itself happens determinately most of the time, while the generation of a gamete's DNA happens indeterminately. A balance between chaos and order is just one aspect of a physical model, which in many ways is like a computer game, a simulated reality. The chaos-order balance is just one piece of the puzzle. There's also the balance between object and event, between stability and change. Again, using a genetics example, DNA represents stability, and the growth of a child to adulthood represents change. We must decide how much of the waterfall is frozen and how much of the waterfall flows. Toward that goal, if we put the 5 enigmatic facts on a spectrum with objects and events at the endpoints, we can begin to see which facts are more object-like versus more event-like. With apologies for my freehand artistry, we start with fundamental particles, jump to their multi-state properties, bounce around inertia for a bit, mold and conform to relativity, and finally land splat dead center where we started, at the beginning of the universe. As an interesting side note, the same path goes from small to big, which makes sense since we're trying to bridge the gap between the Yocto world, the everyday, and the universe. To be totally transparent, nothing is pure object or pure event, pure existence or pure occurrence. Take a cat, for example. On its surface, it seems quite simple and recognizable, despite the physical diversity. A cat is a thing with 4 legs, fur, and features unique to felines, in particular their coolness. One level down, things become more complicated, but still manageable for our limited pea-brains. There are many complex systems, such as the digestive system, the nervous system, the muscular system, the vascular system, and so on. And all these interact with each other in myriad ways. Of course, we could continue to dive down to the cellular level, to the molecular level, and so on, but I hope you get the point. What was one person's object becomes another person's event, and vice versa. In all cases, as we dive down into the micro, simple objects dissolve into complex processes beyond imagination. But that doesn't mean we must discount objects as illusions, as untruth. The cat is no less real just because it is composed of fundamental particles. In fact, having parts confirms its realness, if we are to believe my currently informal corollaries about objects and object reality. When it comes down to it, coalescing an object is a matter of fuzziness, a matter of approximation, even at the small scales. As a cyborg to myself, that may be why mathematical laws can so precisely model certain physical processes. This fuzziness is the truth at the heart of object reality. I know it seems counterintuitive, even contradictory, to say that reality is an approximation. I mean, reality is what it is, isn't it? Going all the way back to Parmenides and is the one. Doesn't any other position create a paradox? However, accepting our object real truth can break us free from one of the chains holding us back. That chain is the supposed link between reality in itself, whatever we define that to be, and the Yocto or quantum world. It feels natural to take that misstep, since reality in itself and the Yocto/quantum world are both walled off from our direct experience, except maybe in Hollywood. Yet the equivalence is the dead end, just like equating the infinite unreal with an all-pervading ether was several centuries ago. The explanation of how this hinders us and how discarding the equivalence frees us will have to wait until the videos on causality. Despite potentially breaking one chain, we still have to play by the rules. Whoops, that is a misattributed quote, Feinstein instead of Einstein. Reality is not anarchic. At its core are the 2 restrictions about events: that an event cannot occur without an object, and that an object must change in order for an event to happen. That is where the corollary to the principle events happen comes in. An event is the change of an object. It can help push us where we need to go. Simply put, to succeed we must define a new underlying object or objects, and how it or they change to account for the 5 facts described earlier. Well, when you put it like that, then... Regardless, we are more than halfway there, halfway to our conclusion. To it we have quantum fields, which model the chaotic turmoil, the constantly evolving events in the Yocto world. However, we have come up inches short. The objects, the quantum fields, are not real. If we are truthful with ourselves, they are mathematical objects and are children of an abstracted infinite unreal. To truly succeed, both objects and events must be part of object reality in order to provide an abductive explanation. Well, at least we have our marching orders, even if they are a bit dad-memeish. So at this intermediate finish line, these are the 3 takeaways from this video about events. Number 1, as shown by the evolution of inertia, the search for an abductive conclusion to a difficult problem has driven a push-pull tension between object reality and the infinite unreal. Currently, for inertia, that abductive search is pulling us away from the infinite unreal and pushing us toward object reality. And number 3, the main driving force behind this shift are the many facts piling up, demonstrating that a single, existing, exclusively deterministic reality, corresponding to the infinite unreal and home to all science law, is a fiction. Boy, that last one is a mouthful. Trimmed down, it becomes a single, existing, exclusively deterministic, infinite, lawful reality is a fiction. That is all well and good, but it leaves us with a mind-stressing dilemma. We have to decide from the old reality model which parts we keep, which parts we discard, and more importantly, which parts we add. For example, if we commit to a multiverse, we have to make each verse an object. Sorry, them's the rules. Not to mention, we also have to decide how we allocate properties and actions between the infinite unreal and object reality. For instance, we have to decide whether time and or space belong to the infinite unreal, to object reality, to both, or to neither. Our paths are wide open, but we can only choose one. The principles of object reality require us to declare one and only one model as truly real and really true. We can't cobble together a mismatched set of models and declare that it is good enough. Without a guide, dismantling our historical conception of reality has left us high and dry. We are like fish cut off from the ocean, stuck in plastic bags. What are we to do? What are we to do? From where I stand, the solution seems simple, given that I am standing in the shadow of my physical model. We should accept where the facts are leading us, remove the viral metaphysical falsehood that infects our Sophisism, and build a new vision of reality framed just on the principles of object reality. See, the world is not such a difficult place to live in if we alter our perspective. In the next video, a standalone addendum to all the videos so far, we will see how my physical model can accomplish all that, as well as potentially explain the 5 big stubborn facts just presented. I know, I probably have bitten off more than I can chew. Way more. However, it is too late for me. The veil has been lifted, and I can't unsee what I have seen, even if I end up in the dusty bin of an abandoned and ignored corner of YouTube history, stuck in self-imposed psychosis. Only time will tell. Oh, the places we can go.